When a cat is adopted, they don't arrive believing they belong. They arrive alert, quiet, carrying a kind of attention that doesn't relax easily. Welcome to Cat Facts Funny. Today we will think together how adopted cats slowly learn what home means. To us, the moment feels complete. The door closes, the carrier opens, the house is ready. There is food placed carefully, a bed chosen with hope, toys scattered like invitations. From the human side, this is the beginning of something warm and settled. But to an adopted cat, nothing has been decided yet. Home is not a location they accept on arrival. It is something they observe first. An adopted cat enters a new space the way someone enters unfamiliar weather. Every sound is measured. Every movement is noted. Even stillness carries information. They are not looking for comfort yet. They are looking for patterns, for what repeats, for what remains predictable when no one is trying. This is why the first days often feel strangely quiet. Not because the cat is ungrateful, not because they are distant, but because they are listening. Arrival is not belonging. There is a common misunderstanding that adoption is a moment of emotional release for a cat, that leaving one place and entering another automatically feels safer. But cats don't experience change that way. For them, change means uncertainty, and uncertainty demands attention. So when an adopted cat hides under furniture, or stays pressed against walls, or chooses corners over cushions, it isn't rejection. It's orientation. They are learning how sound moves through the house. They are learning which footsteps are heavy and which are soft. They are learning whether voices rise suddenly or remain even. This is not fear in the dramatic sense. It is caution shaped by memory. Some adopted cats have known instability before. Others simply know that environments change without warning. And so, at first, they do not participate. They observe. Belonging does not begin with affection. It begins with understanding. The watching phase. Almost every adopted cat goes through a period of watching. Sometimes this is obvious. The cat sits just outside the doorway, eyes following movement. Other times it is subtle. The cat appears disinterested, but never truly leaves the room. They are not passive during this phase. They are collecting information. They watch how often the house is quiet. They notice whether hands reach suddenly or wait. They track routines without joining them. An adopted cat may watch meals being prepared without approaching the bowl. They may sit nearby during conversations without making contact. They may leave the room when things feel slightly too active, even if nothing has gone wrong. This watching is not distance. It is preparation. Cats do not move forward emotionally until they understand what forward leads to. Testing the environment. Before a cat ever relaxes, they test. These tests are rarely intentional in the way humans think of them. A cat doesn't decide to challenge a home. Instead, they place themselves into small moments of vulnerability and observe what happens. They may knock something over and pause. They may walk away mid-interaction. They may approach, then retreat, then return later as if nothing happened. What they are testing is not affection. They are testing response. Does the environment remain stable when they disengage? Does calm stay calm when expectations are unmet? Does safety disappear when nothing is given back? Cats learn more from what doesn't happen than what does. A raised voice, a rushed movement, a frustrated reaction. These things register deeply, but so does patience. So does neutrality. So does a home that does not demand performance. An adopted cat is looking for proof that this place does not change its rules unexpectedly. The first signs of home. The earliest signs that a cat is beginning to feel at home rarely appear in the ways people expect. They are not social displays, and they are not performances meant to be noticed. Instead, they show up quietly in the body. An adopted cat may begin to sleep more deeply, not because the house has become exciting, but because it has become predictable. Their posture changes before their behavior does. Muscles that once stayed slightly tense begin to loosen. Movements slow. Grooming, once brief and alert, becomes unguarded and unhurried. done openly rather than in short bursts that pause at every sound. A cat that is starting to feel at home may turn their back while resting, or stretch fully instead of remaining curled inward. They might return to the same spot day after day, not because it is the most comfortable place, but because repetition itself now feels safe. These changes are easy to overlook precisely because they are quiet. There is no announcement, no clear moment where belonging becomes visible. People often wait for affection, lap-sitting, purring, closeness, as proof that a cat feels secure. But long before those signs appear, the cat's nervous system has already made a decision. It has decided that this environment no longer requires constant vigilance, that it is predictable enough to relax inside. By the time affection emerges, safety has already been established, quietly and without needing to be seen. Belonging is quiet, not dramatic. There is rarely a single moment when an adopted cat suddenly arrives and everything feels complete. Belonging does not announce itself, and it does not draw a clear line between before and after. It does not happen all at once, and it almost never happens in a way that can be pointed to with certainty. Instead, it builds slowly, layering itself over days and weeks, sometimes over months, until one day the house feels different. Not because the cat changed overnight, but because the constant alertness that once filled the space has quietly faded. Most people only recognize this shift in hindsight. They realize that familiar sounds no longer cause a pause or a flinch. They notice that the cat is no longer tracking every movement in the room, no longer measuring distance or outcome. The cat is simply there, present without effort, existing without calculation, moving through the home without asking silent questions at every step. And by the time this presence becomes noticeable, the decision has already been made. Belonging did not arrive when it was observed. It arrived long before, in moments so quiet they never asked to be seen. Every adopted cat has their own clock. Every adopted cat moves toward belonging at a different pace. Some seem to settle quickly, finding their place within days, while others take a length of time that can feel almost endless from the outside. Neither experience says more or less about trust. A fast adjustment does not always mean deep safety, just as a slow one does not signal failure. Time for a cat is not a measurement of success. It is simply the space they need in order to feel certain. Cats who take longer are often building something quieter and more durable. Their sense of safety does not rely on novelty or excitement, but on consistency, on repeated days that pass without disruption, on routines that remain steady, on an environment that asks for nothing and changes little. Comparison only adds pressure where none is needed. Each adopted cat arrives carrying a different past, a different sensitivity to sound and movement, a different threshold for change. Home is not something they earn by adapting quickly. It is something they recognize when consistency proves itself over time. And the most meaningful thing a new home can offer is not constant reassurance, but patience. Because to a cat, patience feels like safety that does not ask for proof. Before we end, it's worth remembering that for an adopted cat, home is not something that appears all at once. It forms quietly, through repetition, through days that pass without surprise, through moments that don't demand anything in return. What looks like distance is often listening. What looks like hesitation is often care. And what looks like slowness is usually trust being built carefully, rather than quickly. For those sharing their life with an adopted cat, patience is not something you offer once and move past. It becomes part of the shared rhythm, a way of moving through the same space without pressure or expectation. And when a cat finally decides that this place is home, that decision is rarely loud or dramatic. It arrives softly, settles in, and stays, not as a moment to celebrate, but as a feeling that no longer needs to be questioned, only lived. If you have ever adopted a cat, you may remember the moment when something quietly shifted. Not in a dramatic way and not all at once, but subtly, almost imperceptibly. Perhaps the cat slept a little deeper, or moved through the space with less hesitation. Perhaps there was a calmer presence in the room, a sense that the home was no longer being carefully studied, but gently shared. These are the moments when home often begins, not with certainty, but with ease. And if you feel comfortable sharing, we would love to hear your experience. How did your cat first show you that this place had become home?